That gives us 353 members. So we have the quorum.
The Protection of Sovereignty Bill 2026 was passed with amendments during the Tuesday, 5th May 2026 Parliament sitting.
Those in favor say and the contrary, nay. The ayes have it.
A bill for an act titled the Protection of Sovereignty Act 2026.
The title has been settled and the bill is passed.
Among the amendments agreed upon by the House were 1. To declassify Ugandans living abroad as foreigners, to limit the bill to apply only to an agent of a foreigner who engages in any of the activities listed in Clause 2, including the use of digital platforms to engage in political activities in Uganda in the interest of foreigners or influences the public to oppose the policy of the government. Exempting monies of funding received by supervised institutions, a health medical facility, an academic research institution, a person for commercial or family use, and faith-based organizations. 4. An agent of a foreigner is barred from engaging in any activity that promotes the interest of a foreigner against the interest of Uganda. The bill further provides that an agent of a foreigner will need an approval of the cabinet in order to influence the development of the government policy. Parliament vested the powers of the implementation of the Act in the Ministry of Internal Affairs, which will house the Department of Peace and Security, to, among others, consider application for registration of agents of foreigners and inspect and approve activities of agents of foreigners in Uganda. A person who wishes to be an agent of a foreigner will be required to register. An agent of a foreigner shall submit a declaration of source of funding to the Minister for Internal Affairs. Obtaining funds beyond 400 million directly or indirectly by an agent of a foreigner is subject to approval by the Minister.
An agent of a foreigner who obtains or receives directly or indirectly funds, financial support, donations, loans, or other assistance from a foreigner without declaring funds in accordance with subsection 1 commits an offense and is liable on conviction in the case of a legal entity to a fine not exceeding 100,000 currency points, and in the case of an individual to a fine not exceeding 50,000 currency points, or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 10 years, or both.
The legislation passed by Parliament agrees with the framers of the 1995 Constitution that the people of the Republic of Uganda shall have sovereignty over social, economic, and political policies affecting the governance of the people of Uganda. In so doing, the government defends the protection of the Sovereignty Bill 2026 as legislation to effect and operationalize this narrative.
The people who made our constitution were forward-looking. What we are now doing is to put in place the regulatory framework, the legal regime to effect Article 1 and to affirm the fact that our sovereignty as a people, our sovereignty as a country is important.
The government chief whip, Hamson Obua, draws confidence from a section of countries that have operationalized similar laws protecting the interests of their respective countries.
The United States of America has the Foreign Agents Registration Act of 1938, the oldest, under sovereignty. Singapore has the Foreign Interference into Countermeasures Act of 2021. South Africa has the Protection of Investment Act of 2015.
Government is not moved by the controversial voices crucifying the speedy processing of the bill, including the suspension of some rules of parliament that blocked MPs from debating the committee report.
We followed our rules to the latter. That is why even when opposition moved two motions challenging the voice voting, we had to move.
The Bank of Uganda, the amendments that they made, we did not get the chance to look at those amendments, particularly for Bank of Uganda. We looked at the amendments in the whole bill, but the committee, those who were on the committee, confirmed to us that whatever Bank of Uganda had included in as amendments, they were all factored in.
That's why we said no, we had to allay the fear. Following again President's guidance, we said no, we shall allow money to flow in the country. But the only challenge will be, you must account for it. These days when I go to bank, I want some of the banks, I always, when I go there, they ask me the source of fund, if I'm depositing. Then if I'm withdrawing, they ask me the purpose.
Obua defends the guidance by the president on the sovereignty bill, which many deemed as a humble directive to have the piece of legislation in place.
In my humble opinion, the president is alive to the legislative processes he guided.
This is not the first time the 11th Parliament has processed a controversial legislation drawing a line between the interests of the government and the interpretation of the public.
I want to use this microphone to tell my people that we shall not get tired. And it is going to...
Daniel Mugoya, Gloria Gwitabinji, UBC News.